So let's get started. Welcome. Today's webinar is Suddenly Seeking Suburbs. My name is Elizabeth Aloni and I'm with Schneps Media. We're the largest local media organization in New York City with newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events across Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Westchester, Manhattan, and Long Island. Today, we're thrilled to bring together experts on buying a home through the entire process to design in Westchester. And I would like to introduce our panel of experts now. First is Kori Sassower. Please say hi to everybody. She is a licensed associate real estate broker operating out of Westchester. By combining a dedicated, results-oriented approach with deep local experience and strong technical knowledge, Kori serves as an expert advisor and trusted fiduciary to real estate buyer, sellers, and developers across Westchester and Fairfield County. Her broad experience encompasses residential sales, co-ops, new construction, short sales, and commercial sales. Kori is the #1 agent in total sales volume in Rye Brook in 2017 and 2018. Kori has been recognized as a top 40 agent in Westchester County and is in the top 1% of all agents within her company. Kori has also been recognized by Westchester Home Magazine, Westchester Family, and the New York Times. Kori is a highly successful entrepreneur and real estate professional with nearly 2 decades of marketing and sales experience. Kori spent 15 years in senior marketing, sales research, and finance roles at Sony Pictures Entertainment, where she rose to Director of Pricing and Planning at the cable network subsidiary GSN. Following her tenure at Sony, Kori founded Momentum Classroom, the award-winning Westchester-based youth fitness boutique, where she was recognized for her groundbreaking work with children. Kori is deeply entrenched within the Westchester community with a strong local influence. Kori is a duly licensed associate real estate broker in New York and Connecticut. She received her BS in Consumer Studies from Syracuse University and lives in Rye Brook with her husband and 3 children. Welcome, Kori. Next, I'd like to introduce to you Jon Yellon. He is a mortgage banker. Say hello, Jon. Jon has been a top producing loan originator for close to 20 years. He ranks in the top 10 of Loan Depot, which is the #1 retail non-bank lender in the country in total volume. He's also been recognized in nationally acclaimed industry periodicals, the Scotsman Guide and Mortgage Originators in America, for being in the top 1% of all originators in the US. At Loan Depot, he is provided with top-tier pricing for direct lending and access to every possible product in the industry. Loan Depot is a direct lender that funds in excess of $50 billion per year in residential mortgages in this country. He's achieved this success by having a mindset for detail-oriented hard work combined with a desire to help homeowners and potential homeowners with goals of efficient closings and the most affordable financing. Whether they're looking to purchase a home or in need of a refinance or looking to consolidate high interest credit card debt into a personal loan, he's able to help them and as such has built an extensive referral network by always looking out for his clients' best interests. He's also obtained licensing in 30 states across the country and maintains these licenses via continuing education. Jon is a graduate of the University of Rhode Island, lives in Rye Brook with his wife and 2 girls and their dog, Winnie. Welcome, Jon. Now I'd like to introduce you to Justin Albano. He is a home inspector. Justin is the owner and principal inspector of True View Home Inspections, LLC. Justin primarily works with home buyers in forming one of the largest investments in life and protecting families from the otherwise unknown. Personally, Justin is a homeowner with a family and understands the emotional and financial stress of the home buying process. Having bought and sold homes, Justin views his role as home inspector as a personal one. He knows his clients and their families and listens intently to their concerns and needs. In Justin's eyes, his primary job is to protect and inform the client, who many times is also a neighbor or friend. He knows that the home inspection is a critical element of the decision to purchase a home and often is the only thing standing between a family and what could be a devastating decision. Over the past 15 years, Justin and the team of home inspectors at True View Home Inspections have built a superior reputation as honest and experienced home inspectors throughout New York and Connecticut. Clients appreciate their knowledge, thoroughness, and honesty. qualities that Justin insists form the foundation of the service that he and TrueView provide. Welcome, Justin. And last but certainly not least is Betsy Tauber. Betsy Tauber is of Tauber Designs, which was established in 2008 when Betsy moved from Manhattan to Westchester. As a graduate of the Parsons New School for Design, Betsy has worked at places such as Madeline Weinrib Atelier, located in ABC Carpet and Home, and Jerry Pear Associates in the Design and Decoration Building. After gaining experience across many facets of the industry, Betsy then went on to establish her own design company. She loves surprising her clients with design possibilities and always strives to make her clients feel proud and confident in their homes. Using the help of texture, color, and lines, she creates spaces that are meant to be both beautiful to the eye as well as lived in. Betsy currently lives in Rye Brook and with her husband and 2 children, and obtained her undergraduate degree from Boston University. Welcome, Betsy. As you can see from what I've shared, we have quite the experts here with us. And I'd like to get started talking with Kori, who is our agent. Kori, I think, to start us off, we'd love to hear about what is the state of the market in Westchester real estate now?
Absolutely. So, 2020 started out really, really active prior to COVID. So we had a lot of deals that happened in January and February prior to anybody knowing what was going to happen. And I think that the last few years after, Westchester was very much affected by the SALT tax deduction. So what that is that you were able to take your income taxes and reduce it by your property taxes. That changed in 2018, and you were only capped at $10,000 in property taxes. Most of Westchester County has more than that. So we had a big slowdown in 2018 and 2019 while buyers were trying to figure out how that was going to play out. But prior to 2020, we had a sense there was going to be a large amount of buyers that were going to be in the buying community in 2020. So January and February was gangbusters. And then when COVID happened, we kind of shut down for, I would say, a few weeks. And at that time, my phone was flooded with calls for people looking for short-term rentals. They needed to get out of the city and they were going anywhere. So I spent about 2 weeks trying to get everybody and anybody who was called. And it was 30 to 40 to 50 calls a day. It was an immense amount of calls to, kind of facilitate. And we were very successful in getting a lot of people into those short-term rentals. At that time, they decided a lot of these people who were buyers were either never going to leave the city or were going to leave in the city in the next few years. They were loving suburban life, whether they were in Windham, New York, or they were in the Hamptons, or they were in Westport, Connecticut. They decided their family really needed a home and green space and home office. So then we started getting a ton of calls for people looking to buy homes. And it's been an amazing, journey to see how many people we've helped so far. We've put about, me alone, not even my team, have put about $55 million in contracts since January, which is an enormous amount, of business. We typically do that in a year. And that was done in the first, 4 months or 5 months of the year at that point. So we have a lot of that. The problem is we have all these buyers and the sellers are not keeping up with the demand. So we have a lot of people who were going to sell their house, but now they have their college kids that are home, or their 23-year-olds who wanted to leave the city in their home, and their empty nest of 2 has now become a house of 2 to 5 or 6 people. So those sellers who were going to sell their homes have not done so yet. And that's creating a huge amount of demand with very little supply. So what we're seeing is a tremendous amount of bidding wars, 10, 15 people bidding on the same house, properties bidding up very quickly, things going to contract within 5 days of when they were gonna, when they got the market. And we're seeing a huge surge in higher end buyers coming out. So typically maybe we'll have like the $1 to $1.2 million buyers. We are seeing $3, $4, $5 million buyers coming out, whether it's going to be their primary residence or their secondary home that they chose to be kind of more in a closer area. We are seeing so many people come out and look for homes. So it's creating a very, very busy, chaotic, emotional marketplace. And it's really, really important to have a trusted agent to guide you through this, because it's challenging, and there's a lot of things that you need to put into place so that you are very attractive to the sellers and they pick your offer versus the 10 others that are, put in front of them.
Wow, my head is spinning from just thinking about how intense that must be.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about why an agent is important, because I think, people think now with online tools that they don't need to, but it sounds like there's a host of things going on. So what helps, why have an agent, and what is important about picking the right agent?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to kind of take it more to, COVID times now, and then we can kind of circle back to, just in a regular environment. A lot of times people would go to the listing agent. That would be something they would do. They'd see on Zillow that somebody was the listing agent, they'd call them direct. You really need somebody who's going to look out for your best interest. Things are moving at a lightning speed right now. And you need to make sure that you're not making an emotional rash decision, and you're really making a decision that's well educated. If school district's important, if you know the school district, the community, what the commutability is. A lot of people are looking at the train schedules now, but they're on a different schedule. They're on holiday schedule. That's not going to tell you how commutable it's going to be once things kind of open up. And what the pricing is, and giving somebody realistic pricing on what a house is really going to go for, and to make them, be able to get the house that they want. So I think that that's important, but we need to backtrack. People need to do their research. They need to decide what towns are for them, what communities are for them. That's what an agent's for. You sit down with your agent, you have a buying agent that works exclusively for you, and you sit down with them and they ask you a ton of questions. I ask my clients like 50 questions before we go out. What's important? Our schools are important. Is green space important? Do you need one or two home offices now? Is square footage important? Or do you want a house that's more updated? Are you looking for homes that are, maybe a fixer upper? That was a very common thing that people liked. But right now, during COVID, that's not as popular because people just want to get in, and you obviously can't get in. And all the builders, as I'm sure Betsy will tell you, are really backed up right now with the work that they had previously. It's really hard to get things done at a very quick pace. So I think to have an agent who's looking out for your best interest and can fight the fight for you and really take you on this journey together is a really, really important and necessary thing to get to be successful in today's environment. This is not 2019. This isn't just call anybody up and somebody will help you. You really need to have that relationship, because if the listing agent has 10 buyers that they've been working for prior to COVID, and then you're just calling them to help you on that one house, you're not going to get the attention that you need. You really need somebody to fight and advocate for you right now.
In two ways, both, as an advocate and to fight for you, and then also to help you make the right decision by asking the questions that you might not necessarily think of for yourself. In two ways, you really need an agent to be your support and guide you properly. And the agent is really the kingpin of the team. Mm-hmm. That you need to pull together.
Absolutely. And this goes to Justin also, because, you're getting a lot of pressure to close deals really, really fast right now, but inspections are really important. And a regular buyer may not realize that in addition to a home inspection, houses need a septic inspection. You need a pool inspection. If there's a well, you need a well inspection. If there's a below ground oil tank, you need an oil tank inspection. So those are really important things that you could be making a catastrophic decision if you don't know that you need to do those things. And if you don't have an agent that you trust to guide you through that and to give you the right people who are going to be available, because most of these agents have relationships with the mortgage brokers and with the inspectors that will kind of open up their schedule for them. And if you're just, going to any regular person, you're not going to get that treatment. And then if you're not going to get the right inspection at the right time, you may not get the deal. So it's just so important to have everything lined up. And that's what your agent would do. And that's what I would do, is line you up and kind of package you like a perfect gift. So when that offer comes in, there's no reason they can't take you. They have to pick you. And then you'll get the home that you want, and paying the appropriate price, because an appraisal is a super important thing too. The house needs to appraise out. It needs to be, the bank needs to agree that the value is what you paid. And when sometimes people get into crazy bidding wars, they need to understand that what the bank says the house is worth and what you think it was worth, if that's different, there are big implications to that.
Wow, so definitely a lot to think about. So let me ask you this. What is your advice for someone thinking about moving to Westchester? I mean, if they're not intimidated.
And listen, I talked to
you're the one who's going to make it easy.
Absolutely. And I talked to a ton of people who are not looking to buy this year. Maybe they're going to be fall buyers. Maybe they're going to be 2021 buyers. The first thing is to have an initial conversation with a real estate agent, and let's talk about what's important to you and what your timing is and what you want in a house and what you're looking for, and for me to explain the process. I think it's really important for buyers to understand how the process works. It's very different. Even if they sell a co-op or a condo in the city, buying a house in the suburbs is super different, and they need to understand that. So we go through that whole process and we talk it through so they feel very well educated. So they're able to make a quick decision when it's in front of them because they already know that. And then we go through the towns and we talk about, I show them, I have a really great map of Westchester County that's super simple. And we go through it and they say, what about this? And I'll say, all right, this is the train. This is how long it takes to get to the train. This is one of those towns where you play in the front yard, but you have a private backyard. Or this is one of those towns where it's a lot of, green space and long and windy roads. And maybe it'll be 15 minutes to get to a neighbor's house, but you have the privacy for you're looking for. Or this is a town where there's 100 kids in a grade, or this is a town where there's 500 kids in a grade. So there's so many things. And sometimes buyers know exactly what they want, and sometimes buyers have no idea what they want. And I feel like they either want what they had growing up or they don't want what they had growing up. That kind of seems to be, it goes one way or the other. So I'm sure that happens for a lot of things in life. So we kind of just talk about that and we really get into detail and it's great. And then we have a great relationship. And then we do town tours. I sit in my car now during COVID, they're in their car and we drive through the town before we even see homes. And I show them the neighborhoods. I show them the playgrounds where they would shop, where they're going to go to their local Whole Foods. So they have a good sense of the community. And once they're driven, and sometimes they just want one town or they want 3 or 4 towns, then we focus on the house search. And that's when we kind of do a collection. Compass has something called collections, what looks like Pinterest. And you just see all the houses really simple in front of you. And then they decide, and we can kind of communicate through each house what they want. And then we schedule a tour where they go out. And just, right now in today's times, we are absolutely showing houses. Like I said, we have sold a lot of inventory and we're in phase 2 here in Westchester. So I go into the house with you with a mask and gloves and booties, and we walk around the house and we're able to kind of look through everything and we can see as many houses as you want. Most sellers right now are requiring a pre-approval even to see a home. And then there is a COVID disclosure that every buyer has to sign legally before they enter a house.
Well, it's good to know that even with COVID, that there are protocols in place that allow buyers to be able to actually get into the house, get around the neighborhoods, see what they need to see. So it's not just a blind buy. You're able to be as close as possible through COVID. So that's important. And you bring up a very good point that I wanted to go to Jon and talk about, which is about the pre-approval process and about how important that is. So Jon, can you tell me, how has things changed in the mortgage industry since COVID?
It's been very interesting to see. Fortunately, I'm equipped with a company that was starting ahead of banks and ahead of a lot of different lenders with the digital revolution, so to speak. So for us all to have to move to working mobile and from homes, home offices and things like that, it really, there was no transition. And for me, it's a very simple process where someone will, we have a conversation and someone will click on a link, a tab below my signature. And 8 minutes later, I have all their information, and many times their income, their employment, their assets are digitally verified without them even having to provide any supporting documentation. So, and the feedback is really mind-blowing when when they're shopping and if they're going to a bank, it's a process. Like the pre-approval letter for me can be done in 15, 20 minutes. And, I've been in this industry for, just about 20 years, and I've never really seen this sort of urgency as I'm seeing right now in Westchester. And like Kori said, it's important to, take your time, make sure it is what you want. But my job is to give them the facts and the tools to let them know, number one, you can qualify. Most people qualify for a lot more than they think they can qualify for. What they qualify for, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're comfortable paying every month. So, it's really important to compare a lot of people who are coming from the city who are renting, and paying X dollars. How do you feel about your monthly obligation now? Do you want to, I can pre-approve you in a few minutes. It's very, very easy, very fast. But are you comfortable with, are you thinking your payment can go up a little bit? You're okay with that? Or you want to keep it in the same range that you're in right now? Or are you renting for an astronomical number, in the Upper West Side or something, and you want to kind of reduce your payment? So it's important to just take the time and, on the one side of the token, I want to provide a pre-approval letter fast, but I also want to make sure that, especially first-time home buyers, like that you're informed about what you're about to head into. And but generally speaking, it's been, we as a company and myself, like my team, we've been ready for this. And it's, I didn't know that we were ready for this, but we were thrust into this, and it's been really interesting to see that everything that, the upper management has prepared for is ready now. And we didn't think it was going to be because of COVID, but here we are,
And something important that you said too, it really sounds like getting to a mortgage banker along with the real estate agent together in the beginning is very important, because what people are going to learn from you is going to change what Kori is going to show the buyer.
Yes.
So really thinking about bringing a mortgage banker in very early on.
Yeah, I mean, relationships are really important when you're going to specific towns in Westchester, and understanding, or speaking with people that live in the communities and are experienced, have years of experience putting people in homes together, and people that work hand in hand with each other. It goes well. It makes for a much smoother transaction should it proceed.
Another question that we've had a lot of that people are curious around COVID is what's happening with loan? Is it harder to get a loan now? How has COVID affected the loan? You said you're very digital already, but what about timing?
Timing wise, I mean, that again, that speaks to what we're doing. So we're digitally approving people off, right away. And we're even getting appraisal waivers on certain homes where we're not even requiring an appraiser to inspect the house. We have digital tools that do valuations online, that sometimes allow us to do waivers of appraisals. It's not, it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, and with refinances, it's happening where we get appraisal waivers, but with purchases, we have to do a purchase appraisal, but with loans with lower loan to values, we get waivers of appraisals, and it's been streamlined. For loan amounts that are considered jumbo in New York, above $765,000, $765,000, $600 to be exact, the process can be a little bit longer because you're required to supply more documentation, and it's a more complex underwrite, or more in-depth underwrite. I shouldn't say complex. Just with loan amounts under 765, the digital verifications come in much easier, much quicker, and the requirements are easier because they're what's called agency loans. They're insured, funded in our name, our own money, but also insured by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so we follow their guidelines, and the process for loan amounts under up to 765 is, I mean, if you told me you have to close in 2-3 weeks, we're getting it done. I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
Wow, that is. So what is the benefit of using a mortgage banker, as opposed to maybe just going to a bank and trying to get a loan? What is it that's of value?
So when you're a consumer, you're buying a house, you actually have 3 choices. You can walk into a bank and be a retail customer of a bank. You can go to a broker who's a third party arranger of loans that will go out and find a company to use your mortgage. Or you can, we're a mortgage banker. We have our own funds. We have the ability to bank in our name, and we also have the ability to broker in our name. I just like to say that I like to tell people that we really are, in a sense, every bank, because we're fun. We're not just walking the door with one specific bank. We are that bank. We cover those guidelines because we fund loans in our name. We hold loans on our books. We keep the paper, but we also will go out and we will sell loans to all of the different banks that you may walk into the doors to see. The only place where I would be honest and say, if you're a jumbo buyer and you have private, if you have a private bank relationship and you have, private wealth and millions, of reserves, that's the channel where I would be right up front and say, I would direct you to speak to one of my colleagues at a different private bank to compare their pricing to my pricing. If you have $500,000 to $1 million to place into a bank, you're going to get some real nice relationship pricing. Other than that, we're head of the class with everything.
What are a couple of things that you should look for when you're looking for a mortgage banker? I mean, some of the things just in your bio, your experience, how many loans you've done, the kind of company you're working with. What are the important things for people to look for?
Well, everybody wants the best rate, and that makes sense. That's why you're seeking out financing, and you're seeking out, for us, we're seeing interest rates that are below 3% right now on a 30-year fixed, locking in 2 3/4, and with no points, and that's obviously money is the name of the game, right? And people want to save money. It's a long-term commitment. The second piece of the puzzle is you want to. What I'm getting feedback from people is they'll call me and they'll say like everybody's so busy these days. It's really like I've never seen it before. So I always try to take as much time as the person needs to understand what they're doing, and be patient. And sometimes I'll get feedback like people who rushed off the phone. I didn't have time for me, there's not enough time in the day if you don't make the time. You just have to treat each person. You have to make sure they understand what they're getting into, be patient with them. And I think those two things, I could get into more things, but those things are at the top of the list.
Those are great things for people to look for. Thank you so much, John.
No problem.
So we found our home, we found our mortgage. Now we have to make sure the home we found is what we think it is. So Justin, can you tell us a little bit, what does a home inspector do? And why does someone need one? Sure.
Yeah, often people don't realize why you're getting a home inspector. They think it's just part of the normal process, almost like an appraisal. But it's not. It's their chance to hire an individual that will inspect all the major systems and components of the home, report on them for you, so you can truly understand the condition of the home. You and only you. You don't have to share it with the bank in most cases. This is for you to decide if you're ready for the home and the type of home that it is. So it's a great way to learn about the home and make that final decision, really.
So how have things changed with COVID? I mean, if you're going in, you're looking at the home, how has COVID affected home inspection?
Well, for me, for my company, we enjoy the experience with our clients. We enjoy having them with us and teaching them about the home. And that's probably been the biggest pivot for us is, so many of our clients are coming out of the city. They can't join us for the home inspection. So we had to change the way we approach our inspections. We've been doing a lot of communication up front. We want to speak with them prior to the inspection. We want to inform them what to expect from us, the services we offer. And then during the inspection, we've been FaceTiming and Zoom conferencing our clients in to teach them about that home. Just providing them with a report isn't enough, and it could be very scary just getting a report. So that communication during the inspection is necessary. And then, of course, after we deliver that report, usually it would be an emailed report, a digital copy. It's important to be able to review it with them and help them understand what is normal, what isn't normal for a house of this age, this type. What is something that they need to know as a homeowner and something they need to know for a home buyer? What is something that could be negotiated or something that's really a possible catastrophic problem that needs to be further investigated?
So what are some of the things that you see most frequently as a home inspector?
It changes dramatically. I mean, we'll do everything from a studio apartment in Brooklyn to, a 12,000 square foot mansion in Connecticut. And we've done homes from the 1700s and brand new construction. So it changes dramatically based off the type of home. But normally we run into the biggest problems in my eyes would be a home that's just deferred maintenance, someone who hasn't maintained it. If it's a new home, great, you're in good shape. But it's the homes that just haven't been taken care of, things haven't been replaced, that really could be devastating, because that's when you have to warn the buyer, great, you're at the top of your price range, you're buying this home, but in the next 5 years, you're gonna have to replace the roof, the boiler, you have some termite damage, you have a bunch of different things that you're gonna have to budget for, and that's where it gets difficult. The age of the home doesn't matter to me as much. It really comes down to how well it's been maintained.
That's good to know. So it sounds like from your home inspection, you can learn a ton about whether or not you could even afford a home and what to expect. So how do you choose a home inspector that you can trust? What are the things that you should look for?
Yeah, sure. Well, of course, it starts with a referral from your realtor like Kori, a mortgage broker, a friend or family that has just experienced a home inspection and may have moved. But then you should definitely vet them online. You want to see what their past clients have said about them. You want to be able to review, see their reviews. And then you should speak to them, find out what kind of services they offer. For example, Kori, you were mentioning, everything's moving at light speed. My company offers a concierge service where, home inspectors, they don't inspect buried oil tanks. We don't inspect pools or irrigation systems or alarm systems. But, if you're hiring us, we'll have this conversation prior to the inspection, and we could help set you up with these specialists so that everything can be done at the same time as the home inspection, rather than showing up on site for the home inspection and realizing, oh, wow, this home inspector isn't inspecting the audio video equipment or the pool or the certain things that are beyond the scope. So, communication is important prior to the inspection, during the inspection, after the inspection, and you could learn a lot about that if you contact the inspector before hiring them and vet them over the phone.
So it's important that you're working with someone who's a professional, and so that can help you with things that you may not even know that you don't know. I think that becomes one of the biggest issues with home inspection, is that most people are not an expert like you are and don't realize the things that even what you're bringing forth now, that a pool is not included. Or so being able to have someone that can teach you that is so very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we feel like before our inspections, we send out an email to everybody with our standards of practice so that they could review what is and what is not included in the inspection, because we want them to know what they're getting up front. They really need to trust us. Because it is such an important process, and that's important to know.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we've come to the part where we have a home, we have a mortgage, it's been inspected, we're moving forward, we have a welcome home sign, but not quite yet, because we want our home to be beautiful, and that's where Betsy comes in, and to feel good. So tell me a little bit about, I know this might seem elementary, but what does a designer do for a client?
Okay, well, there's many different things a designer can do depending on what your needs are. I offer services in different ways, which could be just paint colors, floor plans, more of the decorating aspect. And then there's more of the design aspect, which is more when I get involved in construction. And it depends on if you're buying a house that is new construction, or if you're buying a house that you just need some, let's just say, decorating, we would get together, kind of figure out phase 1 and phase 2. So if I'm doing the construction aspect, it's more of, kitchen, bathroom renovations, that's tile and cabinets and lighting and hardware and plumbing and things like that. And then thereafter, once we get in the home and we've kind of completed the bones of the house, we go to the decorating phase, which is the carpeting, the lighting, also decorative lighting versus recessed lighting, things of that nature. Furniture, obviously, window treatments, things like that.
So it's really runs the gamut of what you can help people with, from something very, very extensive to something more simple. So a lot of this sounds like a lot of interaction. So how has designing changed with COVID? And how have you been able to overcome those challenges with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're doing more online. I'm doing consultations online, which I had never really done before. And so with COVID, I mean, obviously, as everyone spoke before, there was a huge flood from the city coming out here. And then also people, sitting in their homes and looking around their homes and saying, I want to change this, I want to change that. And then calling me and saying, how am I going to do this right now without being able to go into these places and source these items? I need an expert. And that's where I really feel, if you have an expert, being able to teach you how to buy, know the inventory. I have all the samples I provide in my home, and I can not only show them to you online and everything, I can also go to your home with the mask, the booties, and all of that, and able to get the stuff to you because there's limited hours at these places. You want to know, I have relationships with all these sources. So you want to know what you're buying also. I mean, there's so much out there right now, from even just talking about countertops and tiles. What type of tile is going to be best for a young family, and what type of tile would you maybe not need to, or you would need to maintain more when you're, you know, if it's different types of tiles. So that being said, I think, you know, I'm able to get online with them, show them everything that's available, and kind of move forward from there.
Sounds like it's a lot more complicated with the COVID. So, you know, why is it more important? I mean, I just from what you've shared, it seems that it's more important to work with someone who knows the ins and outs than before. How is working with someone who's experienced important during these times?
Yeah. For example, I usually, let's just say if you're doing construction, you want to kind of start the process the best 6 months before. And I'm saying when construction, even just doing bathrooms and kitchens and things like that, because to get cabinetry could take 16 to 18 weeks to build and things like that. And then you want to put together your team, which is your contractors, your plumbers, and things like that. So, you know, in saying that, you want to, you know, get together and just provide all the information that you can provide that would be best for them. I gotta say that when you're meeting with everybody and doing it all online, it can be difficult. But if you have an expert who's there to, like, you know, for example, buying appliances. I've bought appliances so many times and you're not able to get into the store. How are you going to show them, you know, what's the differences between Thermador and GE product and things like that? So having someone who knows all that product, they can trust you, you can buy it, you can, you know, understand the product and not have to go into these stores, which is difficult at this moment.
So knowing how well it's going to work, the kind of the touch, the feel, all of those things that you're experienced at doing, having that experience, it will allow your clients to make the right decisions in their homes.
Yes.
So how can you kind of walk me through, if let's say I called you and your company and wanted to work with you, what would the process be of working with you?
So I personally work in 3 different ways. One way I work is if I'm doing construction, that would be a percentage of a build. And so that's one way that I work. Another way I do is when someone comes to me and says, I want a dining room, or I want to upgrade a few rooms in the house and things of that nature, I would do an hourly fee. And then another way I've been offering, which people have actually loved, are these one-day consults. So I come in for a few hours. I spend probably 3 to 4 hours with a family or whomever. And we do everything from paint plans, floor plans, lighting plans. I can give suggestions on countertops, backsplash, hardware, all of that in kind of a smaller package deal. And then they go off and they kind of do a little bit more of the implementing of that. So it's more of just a one-day consult. And then thereafter, so say they want that, but they need more help down the line, we can set up, you know, obviously consultations down the line, or we can set up where we do more of an hourly fee. I will say designers work in different ways today. So a lot of people will come to me and say, you know, it's interesting, you have this, but another designer works inside, you know, in this way. There's all these different ways. I would say a lot of people also, they put percentages on net pricing of items. I don't do that. I will say when I worked in the D&D building for several years, a lot of designers did that. And I would say with the advent of the internet and all that, you can get a lot of product online right now. So I don't want to be in the game of someone saying, well, I found this online for a few $100s less, but I've pushed this product, so I need you to buy that product. I want you to pay personally for my expertise and time. I don't want you to be paying for me pushing product. And some designers will work that way.
So you end up having a much cleaner relationship because you're really working from your expertise as opposed to working for a manufacturer. so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I want our relationship to be very transparent. I want it to be very organic. I'm here to be, as like everybody else, the panelists, your advocate. I'm here to, also working with these contractors and everything. You need an advocate. That's another thing about being an expertise. You need someone to be, a lot of people don't know how to build a home or how to decorate. So you need someone to say, no, 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 that's not what you want to do. Or maybe you shouldn't be doing that, because other sources and vendors will push what they want to also, make their own profits.
Well, that brings up a very good point about what to look for when hiring a designer. What are some other tips that you could give people when they're looking at a designer, what they should be looking for?
I mean, when someone comes to me, it's usually, I would say, online presence is obviously huge. And so a few years ago, it'd be like, I would look at they would look at their website. I think if you look at it, and obviously I'm in a visual business, if you're looking at my Instagram or any other designer's Instagram, that's where you're going to really get a feel for what kind of designer they are. I think that the big thing about design today, everybody wants what's called transitional. But that runs the gamut. That could be transitional to traditional or transitional to modern. So you want to make sure that the designer will, get what you want, not what the designer wants. That's a big thing. So a lot of times clients will say, well, I just want to make sure, because I see you do maybe a little bit more modern items. What if I'm a little bit more traditional? Are you able to bring that out and actually, put that in my home and give more of a traditional? So I think that you want to just make sure that the designer can, put forth your designs and what you have in your mind and bring it to life, essentially. And then you want to make sure, I think also a big thing is in terms of the pricing of designers, like I just talked about, but also you don't want to say, a lot of times that the designers at the end of a job, you'll get this big bill. And they're like, wait a minute, I can't believe I spent all these hours. I think a huge thing is to make sure that you're tracking your hours, to understand when you say, okay, I'm buying these amount of hours, what am I really getting out of it? What is it really going to, change in my home? What am I going to do with those hours? And then also to get recommendations. I mean, that's obviously a lot of my business is word of mouth. And so I think knowing, understanding that they've worked with people that you know, or having recommendations from your real estate agents and things like people like that is a huge way to understand how the designer works.
I think we lost Elizabeth.
I think we did.
That's all right. Betsy, do you have anything else that you want to talk about? I have things that I can kind of communicate as well.
I just think that the one thing I would say lastly is during this time, because as you said, Kori, there's a big flood of people coming out and people are making hasty decisions at times. You want to make sure in terms of the design element that you have someone, if you don't know design well, who can help hold your hand through the process and say, you know what, I say to clients often, get in the home. These are the things you need to do now to complete the bones of the house, and then get in the home. You don't need to do everything right away. Make sure that you get in the home, that it's fresh and you're comfortable, and your family is going to be happy in that home. But down the line, maybe we work on that bathroom down the line. Maybe, your daughter's bedroom, just see how she feels in the home. Maybe her color taste will change, things like that.
I think that's a great point. And I tell my clients the same thing as well. Sometimes, yes, there's certain things you have to do to make a house livable, right? You need your window treatment. Some people want to do floors before you get in, do a fresh coat of paint. I always say any major change, they should live in it and see how they live in the house. A lot of people who are living in an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment in the city, don't know how they're going to live in a house in the suburbs. And once they live in the house, they're like, oh, wait, I kind of needed a mudroom. Some of my clients are like, what's a mudroom? I don't need one. So I think that they don't realize, they think they're always going to come through the front door, then they realize they're always coming through the garage. So I think to live in a house and decide, all right, am I going to use the backyard a lot? Am I going to use this living room as a formal living room, or am I going to use it as a play space? they don't know those things until they live there. And I think it's super important for them to live in the house and kind of see how it works for them functionally and then call you. So I think it's a two-phase thing, like you said for Betsy. I think the first phase is get the first things done so that you're ready to move into the house. And then the second thing, really wait a little bit and kind of take a pause, save a little bit of money, because I know there's a lot of closing costs, as Jon can kind of talk to, on buying a house that I think is people don't realize. And Jon, maybe you can talk about seller concessions and things of that nature too, because I think that those are interesting points that they don't realize about a house, and then kind of repivot that in a year from now. I think that those things are super important. I just kind of want to talk about taxes quick. And then Jon, I think you should talk about, what it costs to buy a house, because I think that's really, hyper important as well. So as far as taxes go, property taxes, it's a very, very big conversation that I have. I service Westchester and Connecticut, and there's a huge differential between the two states in taxes, as well as there's a huge differential per town or village on taxes. So some towns are full assessment, meaning that you pay $1 million for the house. They have a tax rate. For example, Rye City is 1.9%. So for a $1 million house, it'd be $19,000 in property taxes. For other houses, for other towns, it's an assessment. The town assessor says your house is worth X, and then we're going to then charge you taxes based off of that. Some people think the taxes change the day you buy the house, but they don't. They take a year or two to change. So I think to get people informed on that, and then depending on when they buy a house, setting a grievance. A grievance is if you are paying, just say $1.5 million for the house, but the town is saying the house is worth $1.8 million. To have a grievance in place by a grievance deadline allows you to reduce the cost of taxes on the house, to kind of fight it, so that when you move into the house, your taxes will be lower. If you don't look into that, you may miss the deadline and have to wait a whole nother 18 months till you grieve your taxes again. So I think that that's like a really important thing to look at as well. So from a perspective, it's the cost of a house, it's the taxes, and then Jon can speak to really what the costs are to buy a house.
Yeah, so I mean, in New York, in the state of New York, Westchester County, outside of the 5 boroughs, there's a big fee that some people don't, or some people are not aware of, which is New York State mortgage tax. New York State mortgage tax is unlike any other state in that there's maybe 1 or 2 more states that have a similar fee. Florida calls it dock stamps. Anyway, New York, 1.05% times your loan amount. New York State mortgage tax as a closing cost. That's the big one, especially when you have a big mortgage. It's applicable for all real estate property except for co-ops. So title insurance, all the recording fees associated with the transaction, an appraisal fee. As a lender, we charge $1,100, about $1,000. I'm a branch manager in Rye, so we do have flexibility there. But generally speaking, a lot of people buying real estate for the first time in the state of New York, they're not, they're prepared for their down payment, but you also have to be prepared for the closing costs. And depending on the purchase price and the loan amount, your closing costs could be anywhere from $5,000 to $75,000 if you're buying a big old mansion. So you have to know what you're getting into with the costs. There's also escrows for property taxes and insurance, which can feel like a closing cost. So, if you're buying a house for $1 million and you're financing $800,000, for example, you're putting down $200,000. You should also be prepared for another, call it $20,000 to $25,000 in New York State mortgage tax, title insurance, all fees associated, and even escrows for property taxes. So what happens with escrows is that, let's say your annual property taxes are $25,000 a year, or 24 for very round numbers. So at closing, depending on when the last property tax bill was paid and when the next property tax bill was due, the bank is going to collect X number of months to place into a reserve account. So at closing, you could have your the rest of your down payment. You could have your closing costs ready, but you also got to remember, okay, wait, my taxes are $24,000. oh, okay, I need another $12,000 that I have to be prepared to place into an escrow account. It feels like a closing cost, but it's not. It's not going anywhere. It's just sitting in an escrow account for when the next property tax bill is due, and the bank will pay your property taxes for you. Every month, you're also going to pay 1/12 of your annual property taxes into that escrow account. And again, the money's not going anywhere. It gets refunded. Whatever's sitting in your escrow account when you go to sell or refinance your mortgage, whatever money's sitting there, you get back in a check. So, but it's just upfront fees. You also have to pay your first year's annual homeowners insurance premium in full when you go to closing. So that's one other expense you need to be ready for.
Thank you for jumping on all of it. This goes to show you why you need professionals in your corner. Look at that. They picked it up seamlessly and kept going with it. So thank you for doing that. And I do apologize. We had a question about buying land. I don't know if you addressed that.
I did address
I
it.
actually answered that.
Okay, you did address it.
Well, I think I answered it, but from a financing perspective, it's very difficult to finance.
What about being
land.
able to find it, Kori? Is that something that in Westchester is available at this point, or is that even more difficult?
It depends. So if you go up north, there's definitely properties that may have land available, or somebody may have a big piece of land that they subdivide, meaning that say they had 12 acres and the zoning laws there are 1 acre lot. So feasibly somebody could take 12 acres and put 12 homes on it. So they can subdivide it out. So a lot of agents know things about that. A lot of land goes on the MLS. There's also some properties, kind of like somebody was describing in the chat, that maybe that's not in well-maintained, care, but the lot is really good or the location's good. So a lot of people will buy something that does have a house on it and just knock it down and then rebuild something. Sometimes it's easier to knock a house down altogether than it is to try to kind of fix it or rebuild it. It's a little easier, and you may not like the orientation of where it is on the land. So you may want to change that, or you may want to change the layout. We do a lot in Westchester. We do, they call it new construction, but a big portion of new construction is just total renovation. Where they take the existing foundation of a house and then they expand it. So they make it much bigger, but you still have the original layout. And even though it's bigger, you're working with an original layout. Whereas some builders will take an entire house, knock it down and rebuild the foundation. And then they can build any layout that they want. So everybody loves colonials, right? Those are the most popular layouts. So a lot of these houses that were built, a lot of these towns were built in the 50s, and split levels are really popular. So a split level home you can expand it and make it great. And it's a super open concept, big home, but it's not going to have that traditional center hall colonial feel when you go in, when you walk in and you have that staircase looking at you, that grand staircase. So sometimes people like to get in early and they like to help with the builder and make those decisions. And then some people like to get in kind of where the fun Betsy part comes in, where they get to pick countertops and tile, but all the hard stuff has been decided for them. So I deal with a lot of buyers from land, starting with the land or starting with something that's already been laid out and working with the architect, to really just wanting to get in to do floor color and paint color at the end and do new construction. But everybody wants new. It's still very, very popular.
That's great. Well, it's been wonderful to have such a strong team here, from being able to find a home, to mortgage a home, inspecting the home, and of course, designing the home. And we're going to make sure that you all have the contact information for each of our panelists. It'll come to you via email, and they'll also be able to follow up with you as well to give you some tips. So thank you so much for this information. I think you've given us a lot of confidence in what can happen in Westchester, what's happening in the marketplace, and how important a very strong team is to making sure that transition is as smooth and enjoyable as possible. So thank you so much to our panelists. I want to thank our attendees for spending the time with us, and hope that you learned a lot. And again, keep your eyes open for your email. You'll have all of their contact information, and they'll be in touch with you as well. So have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and thank you so much to the panelists for giving us your time and your expertise.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.